Hey guys, what's going on? Mike the Caveman Q here again, Paleo Pal on the Island, MikeTheCaveman.com with another edition of Facebook Live. Normally it's Monday nights with Mike, but with Memorial Day and my new Bill Nye series going on, had some technical difficulties, can't even speak now, having some vocal difficulties right now, but with those difficulties, everything decided to move it to tonight, but because I had a session on the last night of the performance, 7 to 8, got 9 o'clock, so hopefully everybody's able to make it that normally makes it on Monday nights, but you know the deal. So you're going to start putting your questions down in that comment box, and as you're doing that, I'm going to pull it up real quick on my phone so I can see your questions. But yeah, while I'm waiting for your questions, let's talk a little bit about that video. So if you missed it, I finally posted part 1 of my Bill Nye series, and that was a takedown of his episode 2. What's up, Ozzy? How you doing? So, it's episode 2 of Bill Nye's new Netflix series, Bill Nye Saves the World. Jody, what's up? How you doing? So, essentially, what I'm doing, I got a couple more people coming in too. Cheryl, how you doing? But essentially, he has a new Netflix series, and it's terrible. We talked about that last week, talked about it in the video on that too, but hopefully every Monday, provided we don't have any issues with technical difficulties like we did this time, we'll have that out. I'm doing a different one of his episodes because it's bad. So after the live stream, if you want to check out that video, it's up on my Facebook timeline and it's on YouTube. So yeah, Bill Nye, bad news. Bad news. Oh man. Plus, you get to see me doing a nice little sketch in a lab coat and a bow tie, which is a nice change. Sam, what's up? How you doing? So yeah, talked a little about the Bill Nye videos, and they caught you guys up to date if you missed that one. Thank you, It Blows, that's on science. And the one where he totally blows off paleo really pissed me off. Yeah, so in this video, the one I did alternative medicine today, that was episode 2. The diet episode was like episode 9 or 8, I want to say. I want to say 8. I think 6 was GMOs, or 4. 4 was GMOs, 6 was vaccines, 8 was diet, I think 9 was pseudoscience. Those are the 5 I'm definitely committed to. And then, depending on how popular the videos get, maybe I'll do them all. But the way I kind of held it was that, unlike Bill, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick to my areas that I'm knowledgeable on, be it nutrition, health, just general health overall, and, biochemistry, stuff like that. I'm not going to be like him. Well, yeah, that's the thing. I skipped ahead too. But I watched episode 2 first. I didn't watch 1, 3, 5. I didn't watch any of the other ones yet. I'm only going to watch them provided the content comes about that, it's popular enough that it warrants it. Otherwise, it's a lot of work to put those together. Joey, what's up, brother? How you doing? So yeah, it's a lot of work to put those together. So unless it becomes super popular, I'm probably just going to leave it to the pertinent topics, the 5 that I mentioned. But it was super fun to do that. I'm going to have some special guests on there as well. Because if you actually see some of the episodes, he brings celebrities on. Like Steve Aoki was in the episode today, for no apparent reason. And so I've talked to some people that I know from, thanks to my dad, I have some celebrity contacts. And going to possibly bring them on to do a little bit of appearance. But I'm also going to try and include some skit science, trick science experiments. I didn't do it this time, but I'm probably going to include some of those as well where they're pertinent. This one really wasn't too much I could have done. I mean, there was. That's a lie. There was some stuff I could have done, but it was pretty good either way. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. But let's get some questions going. So it's enough commentary on Bill Nye. Screw Bill Nye. Bill's an idiot. He was great in the day, and then he decided to push an agenda versus actual science, and that kind of sucks, because he was cool back in the day, but what can you do? Yeah. What kind of questions we got? Let's see. While I'm waiting for you guys to put some questions in, let's see if I have anything lined up ready to rock. Let's see. I can. Usually I have questions that are ready. So with that stupid video and link Send this and a link to debunking video to Bill Nye. I'll have to take a look at that in a little bit, Diggle. Give me a quick summary of it, what it is, because I don't want to pull it up right now. I'm on the show. I'm on the live stream. That being said, regarding, and Jody, I saw you got the share. Thank you. Regarding videos, yeah, they normally have topics here, but so I ended up has one last thing on the Bill Nye thing for now, but the short answer of it, the short version of that was, for whatever reason, one of the files must have been corrupted and it wouldn't export, and so I couldn't save the file. It kind of was terrible, so I spent the whole day literally re-editing stuff, and it was miserable, but whatever. So, benefits of calisthenics, bodyweight training versus weightlifting. It's a great question. So some of the things is that a lot of times people want to jump into weightlifting because they want to try and build mass. The problem is that more often than not, most people aren't moving properly first. So, functional movement patterns, body weight stuff, actually learning how to utilize your body is super important. Like, in terms of children, before you put them into any sport, gymnastics should probably be up towards the top of the list because you kind of want them just to be able to move right. And from there, then you can get into things like wrestling and martial arts. And from there, if they want to actually do specific sports beyond that, then yeah, you can put them into that. But I think that would be a solid baseline. Things like body weight stuff, so gymnastics is a super great idea. You'll be more mobile. If you're more mobile, you get more range of motion. If you have more range of motion, you can go and lift more weight because you're actually utilizing more leverage point. So, the more you can move, the more you can move, the more weight you can move. So, the benefits of bodyweight training overall is that it can keep you going. And then there are parts where you're gonna want to so while progressive overload is the defining characteristic of building muscle, there are points where your body's going to overtrain, you're going to crap out basically. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to deload. By deloading, by taking down the weight, what you can end up doing is be able to bring it back, still get work in, but at the same time, relax your body, relax your central nervous system, because eventually it fatigues out and your body will shut down if you try and overtrain too hard, too often. So the benefit of that is that you can actually program in a deload and still get work in. Alright. What else we got? And that was your question, Joe. I appreciate that. Diggle, I'm sure it's gonna be a good video. I can't wait to see that, whatever it is. Fire cream. Is it good for knee pain? Anybody that's in the comments, can you please interject for that? What do you think? Is fire cream good for knee pain? I'm going to go out on a limb and say the consensus is going to be yes, because I definitely agree. So, some of the biggest benefits of that fire cream are the fact that it's going to bring down inflammation, it's going to bring down pain. So, if you have knee pain, absolutely. If you have inflammation there, which 99.8889999% of the time, inflammation is corresponding with pain, because that's one of the defining characteristics of fire cream is, pain. Pain, redness, swelling. Those are the biggest markers of inflammation generally. Now, there's internal inflammation that can be done throughout your blood vessels and things, and neural inflammation that may not actually be painful, but in the sense that you actually notice it. But more often than not, when you injure something, when there's inflammation happening, there's going to be pain associated. Now, your personal pain tolerance can determine how much that inflammation is actually going to bother you, but yeah, if you have the knee there, the fact that it's going to bring down the inflammation, the fact that it's going to bring down the pain, 100%. So yes, and Joe says fire cream is good for everything. I agree. Just maybe not on hamburgers. Don't put them on your burgers. Okay, I need some. Absolutely, Ozzy. Hit me up, afterwards, and or text me or whatever the case may be. Get a hold of me, and we'll use some fire cream. All right, so we talked benefits, calisthenics versus bodyweight training versus weightlifting, and talked a little bit about the the Bill Nye videos, and how he can go fly a kite. And then I was just talking about fire cream right there. What else we got going? What kind of questions? Excuse me. So, what else we got? See, we got some people here, but don't know who. Bobby, what's up, man? How you doing? Anna or Oliver or both. How you guys doing? All right. Yeah. What else we got? What other questions we got going on? Allergies this year are terrible. So when you're dealing with allergies, short term, people immediately think antihistamines and things, and I think we talked about this last week. Antrax being a good idea, but in terms of long term, you really need to focus on your gut. So you should definitely be considering probiotics, depending on if you have histamine issues. So, which is something you probably know if you have a response inflammatory response whenever you eat those foods. But I have a whole video on histamines. Remind me to put a thing on that. But beyond that, fermented foods, if you don't have a histamine tolerance, will be a good idea. Bone broth, gelatin. I beat a dead horse on that one, but those two absolutely should be doing them. From there, potentially some immune boosters, so adaptogenic herbs, things like ashwagandha, rhodiola could potentially have some benefit. Turmeric, ginger. All right. Thoughts on a Whole30? I personally feel that it's extremely restrictive, even to the extent that even to certain things that have legitimate benefit. I don't necessarily understand the reason for such severe restrictions. So that's a great question, Joe. Regarding Whole30, there is a good program behind it. The science on it is solid. It's Dallas and Melissa Hartwig. They're like the brainchilds of it, but similar to most of the books and popularized ones in the paleo world that got big, Matt Lalonde is the brainchild behind most of them. He's the consultant behind them all. So the nutritional underpinnings are going to be on point. That being said, the reason why it's so restrictive in that one is they're really trying to make sure you eliminate everything that could be deleterious for the most part. There's obviously going to be some things for certain populations that could still be problematic on a Whole30. The idea is to show you how good you could feel. Now, I've actually never done a Whole30. It's a funny thing. I know a lot of people that have. A lot of people swear by it. For me, I'm kind of on with you on that. It's like, the cost-benefit analysis, not worth it for me. I have gone very strict, no dairy, no legume, no grains, no processed sugars, none of that. I've done zero carb. I've done some severe keto-based stuff. I've done literally zero carb-based diets for a little bit just to play around with it. I did the carb test. I played around with practically everything. Though it's funny enough because Whole30 is not one of the things I played with, because some of the things that are eliminated, I don't see the need. And it's close enough to everything else. So if you are dealing with some severe autoimmune conditions, then yeah, you may want to consider something like that. It's also why I've never done a true autoimmune protocol. I've never eliminated eggs. I've never eliminated nightshades. I've never eliminated nuts. Probably I've gone periods where I went with no nuts or seeds for a long time. But yeah, I've never done that. And I've never done a vegan diet. Sorry, Meredith. She just joined us. But yeah, so there's certain things, I'm definitely down for experimenting with different diets. And Whole30, the logical underpinnings on it are good. But as you mentioned, Joe, they are kind of restrictive. And if you don't have an explicit issue that you need to, then you probably don't need to do it. But if you're the kind of personality that needs to have that structure, that very rigid structure, then it could be beneficial. There are some people, working with clients, there are some people who are like me, who are just like, all right, just give me some basic guidelines and I'll make it work. There are other people who need, no, this is what you eat, or no, these are absolutely off limits, and the list is very small. That way you can only eat chicken and broccoli, which is not what Whole30 would be. There's other things obviously involved, but you get where I'm going with this. Where it's a very strict, regimented, no, nothing else, stick to this, period. And it has to do with different types of psychologies, how they view food, how they view just different preferences on how you eat. Some people need it to be very flavorful and changing everything up all the time. Some people want consistently bland. That's it. So if you're the kind of personality that needs that like restrictive, that's it. Boom. Yeah, Whole30 can be great for you. But you know. All right. What else we got? What other questions? So we talked a little bit again about calisthenic versus weight training. A little bit about fire cream again. A little bit about the Whole30 allergies. About long-term recovery from allergies. And, of course, Bill Nye. Come at me, Bill. So make sure you check out that video. It came out pretty good. It could have been better. I'm really not. Despite having made as many videos as I have, you think I'd be an expert at it by now, but they're not that good. They're okay, I guess. I should get better at them, but it is what it is. I've tried to. Let's put it this way. They're definitely a lot better than they used to be. Let's put it that way. Julia, what's up? How you doing? But let's see what other questions we got, guys. Joe is killing it with the questions. What else we got going? Let's see. Hey. So, let's see. Julia, what's the question? We can get some questions. You're probably, you throw me on the spot. It's good. Normally I have a couple of other, back. Oh, sweet. Awesome. Thank you, Julia. What do you think of nutritional yeast? Is it good or bad? And that's a great question. In general, it's not really problematic. The biggest problem with it is that it can be a source of free glutamate, and people think of MSG being bad. Why? Because it can be neurotoxic. So yeast in and of itself can be a source of that. But on the converse of that, yeast can also be a source of like B12. It can be a source of protein, but it can create other benefits. So it's also enzymes and stuff. It can be a source of taste for people that are dairy free. So if for whatever reason, whether you are vegan for whatever silly reason, or you have to be dairy free, you have issues with casein or lactose, or in this case of the rare people, whey, well, you like cheese, you want to have things that taste like cheese, nutritional yeast can be a great thing in that sense. Does it really taste like cheese? No, but, it gets the job done. It's close enough. Kind of. There you go. Right. So, in the case of someone with dairy allergies, someone who can't tolerate dairy, then absolutely yes. So, nutritional yeast, they often use it on, like, chips, kale chips, the vegan-based stuff. They're doing that to make, the cheeses. And, it can have some benefit. Just be mindful of, I wouldn't, be eating it by the spoonful, because, again, the free glutamate could be a problem. But other than that, it should be fine. John, how you doing, brother? All right. So we talked nutritional yeast. We talked a little about the Whole30, allergies, and fire cream, calisthenics. What else we got? What other questions? No problem. You guys had great questions, but it's a more quiet group overall than normal. Although, there's a couple of reasons why. I'm gonna throw out a couple of theories on this. One is that it's the wrong night. Two, it's the wrong time. And three, I really don't have a three. Maybe I have a three. I'll think about three. But yes, wrong date, wrong time. And usually, and I did have a three. I just remembered there's a three. The third one is that normally I get a big growth in like the middle. I have like a bell curve. My videos have a bell curve where it's like first 5-10 minutes like, and then after a little while it like spikes up, and then it's like, hey everybody, we're here. Russell, what's up, brother? How you doing? Russell, I know you were waiting for. I talked about 1,000, for the first 5 minutes of it. I waste so much time on it, but I know you were waiting for the Bill Nye video. It's out, and the people that joined late and haven't seen it yet, Bill Nye video is out. Episode 1. Well, here's episode 2, first episode that I'm doing. So, alternative medicine. Make sure you check it out. All right, awesome. So, John asks, "Hey Mike, can you explain the benefits of the fasting video that I tagged you in?" So, for those who don't know, John, I think it was yesterday, last night, or whenever it was, I'm losing track of days. He tagged me in a video on intermittent fasting. And with intermittent fasting, it was Terry Crews. Now, those of you who don't know who he is the guy that always, so he is the ginormous, just completely jacked black guy that's always the comedian role in like action type movies. He was Cheeseburger Eddie in Longest Yard. That always comes to mind first. Expendables, White Chicks. That's another one that comes up quick. So, yeah, Julie, I saw that video a long time ago, and he tagged me in it again. Great video. I love Terry Crews. Guy's hilarious. So anyway, Terry Crews was talking about intermittent fasting, or at least promoting it in that little like viral video that went out. And other people that use intermittent fasting pretty regularly, Hugh Jackman for his Wolverine roles, essentially the basic thoughts on intermittent fasting. And I have a video on that. I can go back to that. But I've been doing intermittent fasting for roughly almost 7 years now, give or take. Essentially, if you didn't have a refrigerator or a cabinet and you wanted to be able to eat, how would you do it? Well, you'd have to actually go out and gather it, or you'd have to go out and hunt it, or you'd have to go out and, forage it. So you'd have to go out and do something first, whether it's hiking and carrying things. Hiking, throwing something, running, and then carrying it. So you had to exercise first. You had to do things before you were able to eat, because if you couldn't store food, you had to go get it first. So essentially the thought is that we evolved to basically have periods of famine and then periods of feast. So we fasted, and then when you had your food, you ate a whole bunch of it because you didn't know when the next meal was coming. Today, because you have a refrigerator, because you have a McDonald's and a KFC and everything else around the corner, 7-Eleven around the corner, you have access to food at all times. Our brains aren't wired that way. Our brains are wired to say, uh-oh, don't know when the next meal's coming, so I better eat everything that's in front of me right now. And to make matters worse, the foods themselves, processed foods, are designed to be hyperpalatable, meaning they are designed to make you want more. So both our evolutionary template combined with foods that are hyperpalatable. And that's something that Whole30 did actually do a really good job, going back to your question from before. And Maddie, what's up? Going back to your question from before with Whole30, that's a term that was first put onto my radar thanks to Whole30. I read the book. I didn't follow their diet. Anyway, the Whole30 hyperpalatable that first came from there is essentially foods. Palatable is how much enjoyment you have. Hyperpalatable is super over palatable. So they taste so amazing you just can't put them down. And so processed foods are designed to be hyper palatable. The ease of access of them, those two combined, major problem. Our hormones just get all thrown for a whack, and you get the blood sugar roller coaster, and just your body goes for a whack. So the short version, because we meandered a lot on this, as we tend to do, or I tend to do, intermittent fasting, the basic idea is that when you're fasting, your body goes into a mild state of ketosis, so you start burning ketones. Now, your muscle cells and other things like your kidneys, and we talked about ketosis a bunch of times, but essentially, certain cells cannot use ketones, so they're using whatever sugar you have left over. But your brain, and I know I just said muscles, but your muscles can use ketones. Don't mind me, I'm fried. That video, that Bill Nye video ate my soul. The fact that it wouldn't upload. So your muscle cells, your brain, your heart, those will be using, will use ketones in the interim. Whereas like your liver and some of your other organs are going to be using what residual carbohydrate you have, and then it will switch over to gluconeogenesis. So that's the production of sugar from protein. So essentially, you're going to go and you're going to get your energy sources from there. When you're doing that intermittent fasting, you're not getting that blood sugar spike because you're not taking anything in of the carbohydrate variety. You're not eating anything. So ketosis is your body's mechanism that it goes into when food is scarce. Again, particularly carbohydrates, to a lesser extent protein. But without food, you gotta do something. So it switches to that ketone metabolism. What fasting does is it gives you that ketone metabolism without having to restrict carbohydrates. So that smaller eating window means that you're able to get a lot of the hormonal benefits. And is it exactly the same? I mean, it's actually kind of funny because the ketogenic diet developed out of fasting. So it developed as an epileptic diet based on the fact that fasting can actually eliminate seizures. So that's a whole another tangential thing. Talked about that a bunch. We'll skip that for now, but that's the short version. Regarding the last thoughts on that intermittent fasting, last thoughts on intermittent fasting are essentially that you don't need to eat 6 meals a day. It's kind of overrated. It's not something that is absolutely essential. It's not something we evolved in. We did not have the ability to graze at all times because we couldn't store foods. Hey, Shoshana, how you doing? So we couldn't store those foods, so you had to eat when you could. That's the idea of intermittent fasting, is that you didn't have the fridge, so you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta eat when you can. It puts us back into more of a framework of the way we did before. And Ricky does fasting sometimes. Also, honestly, I think all fighters should be fasting at some point. Like, period. The reason why, when you're cutting weight, what's one of the biggest problems people have? I didn't eat in the last 3 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. So your body is not used to that and it freaks out. If you're used to fasting every so often, whether it be the daily 16/8 or the once a week 24-hour fast, if your body's used to that, as a fighter, weight cut, it really isn't a big problem. Like, I never had an issue with weight cuts in terms of worrying about, when's my next meal? Whatever, it's another fast. We're good. So that was always one major benefit I had. Well, yeah, at the weigh-ins, I definitely eat a massive amounts after. I mean, me and him shared a cricket bar at the weigh-ins that night. But that being said, I think Joey had some too. Suzanne, speaking of Joey, Suzanne, how you doing? So, going back to, again, last thoughts, I promise, on intermittent fasting, it can have some tremendous benefit. There are populations where it wouldn't be ideal for, mostly adrenal and thyroid issues, but that's a whole nother story. Women, as a whole, tend to not do quite as well with intermittent fasting, but, again, side note, play around with it, don't go crazy. Definitely a big fan, though, particularly for men, definitely for fighters, but yeah. Thoughts on Purium 10-day transformation and Purium products. Meredith, you'll have to give me a link to that because I don't have the damnedest idea what that is. Okay. I'll look into it, though. That could be one. Joey, you've answered so many of my questions. I've already learned so much. My question tank is now relying on current events. Oh, boy. We can talk that later. We don't talk that on the live stream. Hey, Mike, my classmate wants to know, why is baking soda better than baking powder? In terms of health benefits, it's one of those things where, so baking soda is, or baking powder is baking soda with cream of tartar, which I knew what that was at one point. I think it's like aluminum something. It's aluminum plus something else. That's really the biggest issue there. If someone can Google that, or if they happen to know what cream of tartar is, that much I do know. Long and the short of it is, baking soda is sodium bicarbonate. Sodium bicarbonate can be very beneficial for people that don't see benefit, for immediate relief from people who don't see benefit from apple cider vinegar. It's great for cleaning stuff, you know. There's potentially some benefit to, using it occasionally. I generally think most people are on the not having enough acid side versus having too much acid. So I don't necessarily see the need for baking soda all the time. But in terms of which is better, I definitely say soda is better. Baking soda. Let's be very clear. If you just happen to jump in on the live stream right as I'm saying, soda's better. Baking soda is better than baking powder. All right. Thoughts on bread made daily at a bakery versus bread on the shelf at a supermarket? Both terrible or no? And the answer is yes to both. Neither one's going to be great. Now, if the bread being made at the bakery is being made properly, if you came across a really crazy bakery that happens to be making it similar to the way that like Ezekiel bread is making it, or is making a traditional sourdough, then yeah, there's potentially some benefit to that. Well, let's be clear. Benefit in terms of mental health, detriment in terms of, or less detriment is really where I was going for that, is that you're going to be better off getting the bread, give us our daily bread, the bakery bread versus the store bought. That one's definitely going to be better. If you've come across a bakery who is using traditional preparation methods, that is going to be exponentially better than anything on the shelf, with the exception of like Ezekiel. So we're talking like a baker making a Italian white bread based on like, regular wheat, American wheat, and just refined white wheat, no good. If we're talking about somebody making again a properly done sourdough rye or again the Ezekiel bread where they're soaking and sprouting the grains first, then yeah, it's not going to be terrible. With the caveat that's if obviously you're not celiac. If you're celiac, then none of those breads are okay, and you should know that by now. Or if you are extremely sensitive to gluten or other grains. So if you have noticeable effects when you eat those things, probably not a great idea. Okay. Curious because Susanna's family eats from Portuguese bakery regularly and her father's blood work seems to be immaculate. Then hey, again, there are certain populations that do it. Like I said it before. The whole paleo and or primal and or ancestral template and or whatever you want to call it, it is exactly that, a template. It is not a dogma. You don't not eat grains and or legumes and or dairy because cavemen didn't do it. You do that because that's the logical framework upon which we base our ideas, in the sense that because our ancestors did not have as much exposure to that, because our ancestors did not have as much exposure to it, and there are deleterious aspects, there are dangerous aspects, and dangerous is a lowercase d, there are dangerous aspects to it. You don't necessarily want to make that the bulk of your diet. But because we've had grains and legumes in our diet, and dairy for that matter, in our diet for the last 10,000 years at least, as a minor portion, those who did better on those foods survived. Those who had severe celiac or severe dairy allergies or were eating raw beans and were doing stupid things like that, they didn't make it. And today, more people are making it. That's actually, it's one of those swords of Damocles above us, or I don't know if it's the right analogy. Sword of Damocles when you're, rewind, scratch that. No. I don't think so. No, a double-edged sword is what I was looking for. I got way too fancy for myself on that one. Your double-edged sword of both agriculture and double-edged sword of modern medicine is the fact that agriculture overall decreased our health, whereas modern medicine overall has increased our health. Overall. You know how I feel about that. That being said, and hey, Christine, how you doing? While it increased our, in the sense of birth, the whole, caveman died at 30 thing is mostly because of birth. People didn't survive birth. Now a lot of people that had worse systems that probably wouldn't have survived are surviving. I'm one of them. I was born, if you don't know the story, it's on my website and stuff, and a lot of you I've probably told it to you at some point or another, but fun story about Mike the Caveman. When I was born, I had asthma so bad that 7 different pediatricians misdiagnosed me with cystic fibrosis. So I had ridiculously bad asthma. Turned out, 8th doctor got it right. Either way, if this was ancient Sparta, I was so sickly as a kid, I'm the one that would have gotten thrown off the cliff. There's no way I was getting to here. And yet, while I shouldn't have made it past 20, here I am. Cool. But that being said, is the fact that we are able to actually make it. So there's a lot of us who were not optimal, quote unquote, at birth. We didn't have the best settings, and we're living longer. So because of that, we are more susceptible to immune issues, to things like that. And so people that wouldn't have made it, again, who wouldn't have made it before, are living. So that's a part of the reason why we see more autoimmune and more things like that. But overall, are we better adapted? Because again, big tangential circles. Are we better adapted to grains and legumes than we were 10,000 years ago? Absolutely. But we see a little bit of an uptick now where the fact that children are living longer, those who actually are severely problematic with it, they get to survive because we can save them with modern medicine to an extent. So it's a squirrely neighborhood in terms of what's going on. So in the case of those breads, if he's not noticing a problem, his blood work's good, no digestive upset, no skin issues, no brain fog, then God bless, man. Go knock yourself out. Do you? Because, I don't believe everybody. I truly don't. I don't believe every single person on the planet needs to avoid those things. I just think the vast majority do. There are outliers. There are some people who are going to be extremely, again, the celiac end where you're going to probably die if you have wheat. And there are on the other end who can eat a diet of nothing but wheat and all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but they go whole life, no problem. It's one of those where humans are very adaptable. It's a matter of what's optimal. That's really what I'm after. All right, past that one. So Meredith, you left me the link. I will take a look at that after the live stream just because I can't really pull it up right now. All right, Julia, what are nightshades and what do they do? Who is your nightshade and what does he do? What is your nightshade and what does he do? So what happens is nightshades refer to types of vegetables. And the types of vegetables we're talking about are tomatoes, fruits and vegetables technically. So it gets into a little bit of a squirrely neighborhood now, doesn't it? But nightshades are things, because it's technically tomatoes are fruits, eggplants are fruits, but it's tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, potatoes, which are a root vegetable, so it's kind of like, But yes, tomatoes, potatoes, eggplant, peppers, those are classed under nightshades, and what those do is they can be gut irritants, and particularly in people with severe autoimmune conditions and or allergies to an extent, but more so like the really severe autoimmune end, they can potentially have issues with them. So there are certain people, no bueno. Okra, I don't believe so. Squash, neither, no. I'll take a look at, I'll Google real quick what they are, but I know the ones that I listed before are definitive. The other ones, I don't believe so, no. Thoughts on the Daniel diet. Is that like a Daniel, oh, that's David. No, it's Daniel. So I'm not familiar with the Daniel diet. If you can give me a little bit of information on that. Brian, how you doing, brother? Cool. Awesome, Julie. Yeah, so I'll get you the list of those nightshades beyond the ones that I listed. I don't know that there are other. I'm sure there's other ones besides the ones I listed. There's always some weird thing I never heard of. Like some Polynesian, Polynesian fruit. Oh, that's a nightshade. Cool. But for the most part, those are the popular ones that you're gonna run into: tomato, potato, eggplant, peppers. Which I'll tell you right now, if I had a severe autoimmune condition, I'd be miserable because I love spicy stuff. I love tomatoes, particularly sauces and salsas. I love hot stuff. I love eggs. If I didn't have any of that, so it's fast. So it's fasting with just fruits and vegetables, no meat or dairy. So is it whole food fast? Is it the actual fruits and vegetables themselves, or is it like a juice fast? With that, either way, occasionally going on a vegetable fast, isn't terrible. And it's actually funny. I said before that I've never gone vegan. Technically, in a roundabout way, a couple of times in my life, I've gone vegan for 3 days. So yeah, I didn't do it as a whole food one, but I did do the juice cleanses as crazy as it is, but I did them in childhood because my father, naturopath that he was a proponent of that. Some of the guys that he listened to, some of his mentors were very big on the juicing thing, and not the biggest fan. I mean, there could potentially be some benefit if you want to do it every once in a while. Probably isn't going to hurt. From a biochemical standpoint, I don't like it overall. And having done them, they're terrible. They suck. Like, give me a daily fast of bacon. You know, give me intermittent fasting where I'm fasting for a long window and then getting to eat. The longest I ever went on a fast without eating completely was 33 hours, and that wasn't accidentally that long. I didn't mean to go that long, but it was one of my normal fasts, and I had work that morning. I couldn't eat anything that quick. I just couldn't get to it, so I had a really long fast. I ended up deadlifting 400 pounds that day, so I guess it wasn't that big of a deal. But yeah, I mean, probably wouldn't hurt, Shoshana. I wouldn't do that like long term. Obviously, I've talked ad nauseum to the point where people are literally vomiting about why I'm not the biggest fan of plant-based diets overall in terms of making that like a lifelong thing. I definitely think that you should be getting an animal product of some type at some point, but the fact of the matter is, occasionally going like a day or so without it, probably not going to hurt anybody. Anything on vertigo? Honestly, it's one of those things where I know about it. In terms of the actual mechanism on it, not really 100%. I've been asked that question before, so I think I'll do a video on it. My understanding, and then this is right off the cup, shooting from the hip, is that it's a neurological issue. If that were the case, I'd be leaning towards, again, if it's all the time, like every day, or if it is, occasionally you'll have a vertigo spell, then I would have different recommendations otherwise. But again, shooting from the hip, if it is neurological, I'd be leaning towards something towards a ketogenic type diet, possibly exogenous ketones, possibly some CBD, things that are going to help with neuroregulation. Seems like middle-aged people have issues with it. Yeah, let me look into it a little more, Ozzy, and remind me when you remind me about the fire cream that I will do a video on vertigo. Cool? Alright, so at this point we are at 42 minutes. You guys came on late and you guys had some great questions, and those of you who've been on the entire time, again, thanks. I truly appreciate it. Anybody who's watched it all the way this way on the replay, thank you as well. You're a brave soul. But there was no last questions, guys. You know what to do. Like it, share it with your friends, please. Over on YouTube, if you haven't already subscribed, youtube.com/Mike the Caveman. Please subscribe. I truly appreciate that. I did sign up for a Patreon. I'm probably gonna go and make that live soon. I haven't yet, but if I'm familiar, when it goes up, I'll talk more about it. I made one just to be able to make sure I have my name on there, but otherwise, acupuncture, Ozzy, I have a video on that. So I'm a fan. I think that there actually may be some scientific underpinnings to it that are brushed over. It has to do with the lymphatic system. And essentially, your lymph system is another circulatory system besides your blood, and mostly moves around your white blood cells, and that's a really gross oversimplification, but just bear with me here. And that may have been what the Chinese were describing when they described the chi energy going through. In fact, actually, it's funny that we have that there. Julia, who commented right below you, her father is an acupuncturist, and he did amazing work for me on my knee, which I tore before one of my fights, before my title fight, when I won the title. I tore my knee a month out, and he did some electro acupuncture, and it was a really weird experience, but it was awesome. And Julia, love you. That was great. Thank you for letting my dad help me out there. But all right, guys. Like I said, if you haven't already subscribed on YouTube, please do. Keep an eye out for the Patreon. And yeah, I agree, Shoshana. Definitely for the lymphatic system. Other than that, check out the Bill Nye video. I think it's going to be good. Oh, well, it came out, so I think it's good. People have seemed to like it so far. Hopefully you guys like it, and love you guys for all the support. Keep sending me your questions, and I'll see you tomorrow.